just a little bit. What is really going on? Humans are forcing warming. Warming is happening. The human fingerprint is still clear in the data. And then there are other things that are also in the game. And in particular, the top figure there you see, which has the global temperature, the one below it is the El Nino influence. If you put a huge amount of hot water in the middle of the Pacific, the atmosphere can't heat it up very easily. If you put a huge amount of cold water in the middle of the Pacific, the atmosphere can heat it up very easily. And so whether the heat is going mostly into the atmosphere or mostly in the ocean for the short term is fairly strongly influenced by El Nino and La Nina. And in the last decade, the system has dumped more of the heat into the oceans and less into the atmosphere. This is something that wobbles, and while you can pick out very clearly the 1998 El Nino and then the trend off of that, you'll see that this has been wobbling along in that middle panel. Ultimately, the ocean and the atmosphere have to be coupled. Ultimately, they all have to go along together. And it's simply a question of how much of the warming has already been realized in the atmosphere and how much is still to come. And so I think there's fantastic science going on the partitioning of the warming between the atmosphere and the ocean transiently. But the long-term picture, yes, heat is still accumulating in the Earth system with high confidence. No, there really hasn't been a stop in global warming. Right? And there's people have done this, so this is the Foster and Rahmsdorf version, where you go in and try to correct for these wobbles and say if El Nino and La Nina had stayed constant, had not been a little more one way than the other, what might you have seen? And if you do that, all of a sudden the global warming signal pops out very clearly. And so is there any change in this? No, there really isn't. Okay? Where did it go? And this finally the ability to make quantitative statements about heat going into the deep ocean, the Argo floats and other advances have come just in time. I think it would be fair to say that the oceanographers would be happier with a few more floats. I think it's fair to say that this is just enough to see what's going on. But what you see going on is that a lot of heat has gotten deposited in the ocean, and it's gotten pretty far down. And so what you'll see there on the left is heat that's been deposited in the ocean, the best estimate and some uncertainties. And you'll see that bottom little bit there is that way over there is all the way down. I mean, that's really deep, and heat is getting way down in the ocean. The Southern Ocean version of that is on the right, and a lot of heat is going down in the Southern Ocean. So this new ability to observe the oceans, to say quantitatively, we see what's going on, and yes, heat is getting put in. I gave you El Nino, La Nina. There's a lot more than just El Nino, La Nina going on. And I think you will see really fantastic science on what controls this partitioning as time goes on.